So it's August 21st, 2010. This is Sue Maberry interviewing Jerri Allyn, Jerri Allyn Studio in LA. Hi, Jerri.
Hi. So in 1975, I was at the San Francisco Art Institute, and the content in crits was never talked about. We only talked about form and style. Mostly I was silence in crits. I was scared to talk. Like, we just got ripped up in crits. We used to joke that if we made it through a crit, we could make it through anything. Along came Suzanne Lacey and Faith Wilding and offered this. They were artists in residence for a year and ran this feminist art program for a year that had several components. They introduced us to consciousness raising. They introduced us to a little bit of art history and women who had been lost in art history. They introduced us to not only just studio art, but new forms, all kinds of new forms. We learned that women's experience could be the content of art. So consciousness raising, for instance, was this democratic structure in which everyone was in a circle. Everyone got equal time, like 3 minutes each, to talk about a particular topic. It was demoed for us to share with us how it was done. And so Suzanne and Faith were facilitating us all doing this big group, and they asked us what we intended to do when we graduated from school. And to a T, everyone planned to get married or be a prostitute. And our CR group was, which was similar to what happened at the Women's Building, we, looked at all these serious issues: our sexual orientation, power in the world, work, whatever, race, class, all these things. We would go through these every week. And we would make responses, and we created these visual journals. So that would be like the juice for ideas that would get stimulated for what we wanted to do. Obviously, I wanted to talk about waitressing my way through art school and the conditions for working women. And Suzanne asked us to come down to, I think it was the opening of the Women's Building on Spring Street. So we organized, a bunch of us somebody had a station wagon, and we drove down to LA, and we came to that, and LA was like this foreign country. There were just these ribbons of highways and these palm trees everywhere, but somehow we found the Women's Building, and we stayed for the weekend and got introduced to the Feminist Studio Workshop in that program, and I decided to come down. Something that's been really important in terms of teaching that the Women's Building pioneered was the supportive crit, where it was really about looking at what's working. And first of all, we defined what kind of critique we wanted, and that there were all kinds of women that came to this program, not just women artists. It was interdisciplinary just by who was literally in the room and in our classrooms. We were expressing ourselves through art, but many of my colleagues have gone on to do all kinds of different things. That strategy has rolled out into art colleges across the United States much more. This idea of what's working, who's the audience that it's for, what's the best style and form for what you're trying to say, and what are some productive suggestions for moving on. Suzanne Lacey was the performance art professor at the Women's Building, and she would have us do this exercise in which we would write out, we would imagine 50 impossible performances that we couldn't, they were completely impossible for us to do. And then we would carry forth in the semester, and lo and behold, we'd check back on that at the end of the semester, and all of us had done half of what was on our list. So it was this powerful exercise, and if you can imagine it, you're halfway there to actually making it to come true. And Anne Galden, who I co-founded the Waitresses with, reminded me that that's when I had that vision of hundreds of waitresses in the street for the All-City Marching Band, the All-City Waitress Marching Band. And that was my first introduction to the power of what I've come to know as a feminist pedagogical strategy to really envision who one could be in the world, what kind of contributions could women artists make. It was really a mind-altering experience to have spent my life protesting against as a Quaker. Like that was during the Vietnam War, and we spent years and years protesting against and raising money for peace candidates. But this was no longer protesting against. This was literally building a place for us, a place for our voice in the world. One of the myths that I think was around for a long time was that we were kind of all, like, some people were scared to come to the Women's Building, or we were just unto ourselves. And that's not my experience at all. I really feel like not only were we out there in different places, but certainly those of us who were artists were also interacting with artists all over LA in different little groups. Suzanne had us all over LA doing various projects or visiting with various performance artists, or introducing us to, we took trips to San Francisco, we took trips to San Diego. That was incredibly exciting, and it's clearly made a tremendous impact in my life, because I am a big proponent of integrating or weaving together field learning with book learning. And that's what we were doing. We would be like in intensive study and looking at these deconstructing everything and these theoretical ideas that we were playing around with, and then we'd be out in the field, like, literally experimenting. In the LA Women's Video Center, we were contracted to do these videotapes about, one of the projects was Suzanne's, but one was about a child care center, one was about lesbian mothers. To me, it was an incredibly exciting time, and just really fun to be running around and working on each other's projects. And it sort of felt like that, like we were a hive of bees just moving in these different places and moving up and down the floors of the Women's Building.